Good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check, 1, 2. Mic check, 1, 2. Good evening. On behalf of the members of the 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, I'm honored to welcome Governor Albert Bryan Jr. to present his first State of the Territory address on his second term, or his fifth State of the Territory address. Pursuant to the Revised Organic Act of 1954, U.S. Code Title 48, Chapter 12, Section 12, 1575, Subchapter 3, which provides that the governor shall come before the body in session to submit a message on the state of the territory. We're also honored to welcome the members of the judiciary, to include the Chief Justice, Reese Hodge, and all of the judges and magistrates that may be here today, as well as the Honorable Deborah Watlington, presiding judge of the Superior Court, the Honorable Robert Malloy, Chief Judge of the District Court of the Virgin Islands, members of the Governor's Cabinet, family, friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. At this time, we'll go into a quorum call, and Senator Carla Joseph, Madam Secretary, you're recognized for a quorum call.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will begin with Senator Marvin A. Blyden. Present. Senator Blyden, present. Senator Angel Boquez, Jr. Present. Senator Boquez, present. Senator Diane T. Capehart. Present. Senator Capehart, present. Senator Samuel Carrion. Senator Carrion, absent. Senator Dwayne M. DeGraff. Senator DeGraff, present. Senator Ray Fonseca. Senator Fonseca, absent. Senator Novell E. Francis, Jr. Senator Francis, present. Senator Alma Francis Heiliger. Senator Francis Heiliger, present. Senator Donna A. Fred Gregory. Senator Fred Gregory, present. Senator Kenneth L. Gittins. Here. Senator Gittins, present. Senator Maurice C. James. Here. Senator James, present. Senator Javon E. James, Sr. Senator James, Sr., present. Senator Franklin D. Johnson. Senator Johnson, present. Senator Carla J. Joseph. Senator Joseph, present. Senator Milton E. Potter. Senator Potter, present. Mr. President, we have 13 members present and 2 members absent.
Very well, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. We do have a quorum and prepared to proceed. At this time, we like to recognize the presence of the Governor's Chief of Staff, Mr. Carl Knight. Good evening, welcome, sir. And we'll go to an invocation by the Reverend Anthony Abraham of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Catholic Church, and that'll be followed by the posting of the colors by the Virgin Islands National Guard, 786 Battalion Color Guards, and then we'll have the national anthem and the Virgin Islands March by our songstress, Miss Lorna Freeman. Invocation.
Psalm 139, verses 7 to 10. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go to the heavens, you are there. And if my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. Let us pray. God of our journey, we offer to you this year that has passed, the times of joy and the times of sorrow, for the way in which we have experienced your love for all of creation and your care for each of your children, As we look back, help us also to be filled with expectant faith at the new things that you are doing, and to trust that whatever lies ahead, you will travel with us. May your blessings come down upon our governor this evening and all of us, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Remain standing for the posting of the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, say those vast star-spangled banner yet waved o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please take your seat. Please join me in welcoming Miss Iona Roach, mother of Lieutenant Governor Roach. And his sister. She come in as well. Good evening, welcome. First Lady of the U.S. Virgin Islands, Yolanda Bryan. Good evening, First Lady, welcome. Our delegate to Congress, Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett. And she's been escorted by Senator Kenneth Gittens. Please join me in welcoming the Lieutenant Governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roach. And he will be escorted by Senator Carla Joseph. They're making their way up. And now is a good time to remind individuals, please turn your devices off or on silent. It'll be truly appreciated. We don't want that when the governor is speaking, for sure. Lieutenant Governor Roach. Bugle call. Please stand.
Bryan Jr.
Please be seated. Governor Bryan, welcome to your fifth State of the Territory address. The 35th Legislature is honored to have you here this evening, and we await your State of the Territory.
Wow. I'm truly excited to be here this evening amongst this gathering of leaders as we usher in a new era of prosperity in the Virgin Islands. Reverend Father Anthony Abraham, Lieutenant Governor Tregenza A. Roach, Senate President Novell Francis Jr., and the members of the 35th Legislature, Chief Justice Reese Hodge, and Justices of the Supreme Court of the Virgin Islands, Presiding Judge Deborah Watlington, and the judges of the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, Delegate to Congress Stacey Plaskett, Chief Judge Robert Malloy, and judges of the District Court of the Virgin Islands, members of my cabinet and other agency heads, members of my staff, my wife, First Lady Yolanda Bryan, other invited guests, and my fellow Virgin Islanders. Good evening. I have the honor of appearing before you again for the fifth time as the Governor of the Virgin Islands of the United States to report on the state of the territory as mandated in the revised Organic Act of 1954. I am truly thankful to the people of the Virgin Islands for the very strong mandate given to Lieutenant Governor Roach and me to continue our leadership of this territory. I'm eternally grateful to my extremely talented campaign team led by Dwayne Benjamin, the many dedicated campaign volunteers, the Democratic Party of the Virgin Islands and its leadership, our donors and all the well-wishers and prayer warriors that supported our campaign efforts. Thank you. As we campaigned for re-election, we were intimately exposed to the challenges encountered daily by our people. We also bore witness to the tremendous progress we have made in confronting these challenges. We're excited by the opportunity to continue the work of improving the quality of life for all Virgin Islanders who call here home. I would like to congratulate the Honorable Ray Fonseca and the Honorable Maurice James on your ascension to service within this august body. I also welcome the return of the Honorable Diane Capehart to these hallowed chambers. I extend congratulations to all the newly sworn-in members of the 35th Legislature. I look forward to doing meaningful work with all of you. This past year, we lost two great men who both held this office prior to me. The Honorable Dr. Roy Lester Schneider and the Honorable Dr. Charles Wesley Turnbull. The former was a remarkable physician and the latter a passionate educator and historian. Please join me in a moment of silence as we honor their contributions to the development of these islands. I thank them, their families, and those that worked in their employ for their invaluable service to the people of the Virgin Islands. Tonight, we also honor the service of our men and women of the Virgin Islands National Guard as they have volunteered to support the nation's military forces in defending America from threats, both foreign and domestic. As we speak, Virgin Islanders from Virgin Islands Army National Guard soldiers from the 114th Aviation Detachment are deployed along the southern border of the United States supporting the Department of Homeland Security. We also have several members serving on our active duty tours at the National Guard Bureau in Arlington, Virginia, West Point Military Academy, and Fort Benning, Georgia. Beyond these locations, service members are in the training pipeline at military installations across the nation. Our thoughts and prayers are with them as they perform their duty and fulfill their missions. After 4 years of steady progress, in the face of unprecedented crisis, I remain infernally optimistic about the future of these islands. That optimism is not anecdotal. It is bolstered by the tremendous growth in our business, social welfare, and private sectors, and the steady pace towards the Vision 2040 plan that was developed by this community. The reality is that after years of planning and hoping to find the resources to address the needs of our territory, we have finally begun the journey toward a new era of prosperity. Progress is incremental. With each step comes new challenges, but we have faced and conquered formidable hurdles in the last 4 years and have managed to overcome them with great skill and irrefutable success. As we charge on amid a $12 billion recovery from the ravages of Hurricane Irma and Maria, I have come to realize that recovery is a misnomer. This is not a quest to return to where we have been, but a transformational journey to a place we could not have previously imagined. Our troubles have changed. forecast by 3.5 million. And part of the reason for this increase is the modernization of our property tax system. No longer do you have to drive to your local property tax office to pay your bills. You can now pay those bills and access information you need from the comfort of your home or your office. Last year, the Office of the Lieutenant Governor launched for the first time in the Virgin Islands a citizens online portal. Property owners who are unable to pay their property taxes all at once can now establish easily payment plans through this same very portal. This update to our property tax collection management has streamlined payments for all homeowners, and we look forward to further improvements to the system. In my promise to modernize government, we have made it easier overall to access information and actually pay for those services. In the years ahead, we can look forward to a burgeoning construction sector as we strive to infuse at least $800 million in federal spending into our economy each year. Now, growth in overall gross territorial product of 2% is considered massive and robust. This is an almost 20% increase in spending every year for the next 4 years. Further, we expect that this influx of dollars will continue annually for at least the next 10 years. This money does not fully safeguard us against recessions and other economic disruptions, but it does assure us that we will have a steady stream of capital spending for the foreseeable future. If that wasn't enough, we have been further blessed by the hard work of our delegate and our team in Washington. As a result of their efforts, we have been able to offset some of the financial pain of inflation, some of it directly through financial subsidies to our residents, and some of it indirectly by allaying the rising cost of energy. We have the benefit of these funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, for the next 4 years, and will undertake projects to address mental health and social well-being and to secure the economic growth of our territory. These are not hopes and dreams, but plans and strategies to assure the government of the Virgin Islands is and remains on solid financial footing. The growth in our general fund revenues has enabled us to raise salaries for teachers, corrections officers, police officers, nurses, and general workers. We fulfilled our obligations on long-term debts that had been owed to workers for years and paid the salary increases negotiated by our administration. Get this, within the same year we negotiated. We prioritized the people and ensured that they had money in their pockets to stave off this rising inflation. A rising tide must float all boats, and it has. We must be mindful that government spending is not only good for government spending, but it actually spurs private sector activity. When the government spends, these expenditures are multiplied in the private sector. The need for more housing, food, gas, restaurants, and services will continue to generate additional dollars to take care of our general fund obligations and allow for the greater provision of public services for our community. This expanding economic pie has been evident in our robust private sector. We have experienced continued growth as a result from new business development, vigorous tourism activity, and infrastructure investment. Our administration continues to support the growth and development of our small businesses and attract new capital investment into the territory. One of the 8 goals of the Vision 2040 plan is to increase the net growth of businesses in the territory and ensure that entrepreneurs have access to support and capital to scale their businesses. We have evidence of our success as the number of new business license applications more than doubled from 1,027 filed in 2021 to 2,239 in 2022. That's an increase of over 1,200 new business licenses, which significantly surpassed all our projections. The unemployment rate in the territory declined to 5.3% in September 22, which is higher than the pre-pandemic rate of 3.5% of February 2020, but reason for celebration when you consider that unemployment averaged 10% throughout the entire 2021. Initial unemployment claims are also considerably lower, 176 in August 22 compared to their April 2020 peak of 2,727. Private sector hiring has increased, supported by industries tied to tourism and construction. With the expansion in employment, the unemployment rate is expected to decline further this year. And for many businesses here and across the nation, finding employees has become a significant challenge. These are positive signs for those who are out there looking for work or to move ahead and seek new opportunities as we all continue to navigate a post-pandemic era. Last year, we announced the launch of the Catalyst Fund Gap Financing Initiative. Our administration, along with Senate President Noel Francis Jr., championed this initiative and made $5 million in gap financing available to spur small businesses development. The Research and Technology Park closed on the first Catalyst Fund loan in November, providing $1.5 million to a small firm that will be manufacturing indoor hydroponic garden systems for producing leafy greens and herbs. This is an exciting new tool in our economic development toolbox that provides financing to existing local businesses and new startups with the potential to create more jobs for Virgin Islanders. Expanding our business products and remaining competitive regionally is important to our territory. We continue to lose business and tax revenues to online commerce, which has grown exponentially since the pandemic. The only way to compete is to push innovation. Last year, we were able to award $4 million in support to 337 small businesses through the 2022 Innovation Grant. That program provided qualified small businesses with up to $50,000 to implement innovative strategies to help their businesses expand and grow, making them even more resilient to economic downturns and regionally competitive. During fiscal year 2022, the Economic Development Commission received 21 benefit applications. That's almost 25% of all the applications we have. That has a total potential economic impact of approximately $10 million to be paid out in taxes and in wages, and over $7.7 million to be made in capital investments. These applicants represent the potential for the U.S. Virgin Islands to realize an estimated $45 million in taxes over the next 5 years. The University of the Virgin Islands continues to contribute to the sustainable economic development of our islands through its Research and Technology Park and the Small Business Development Center. Likewise, we congratulate the Economic Development Authority on its investment promotion activities that are a critical contributor to our economic diversification. The tourism sector continued to be resilient in 2022. Leading the charge in tourism is Commissioner Joseph Bushelti, who was recently awarded Caribbean Tourism Executive of the Year by the Carib Journal. He and his team have garnered recognition for the territory from Condé Nast Traveler, Travel and Leisure, Porthole Cruise and Travel Magazine, Fromers, and Yahoo Life. The number of visitors to the territory increased last year to over 1.6 million, which is a 116% increase from the prior year. Air visitors remain robust, increasing by 11% through September 22 over the previous year. Cruise passengers plunged to 30,194 in 2020, but began to recover in the third quarter of 21 and reached over 777,000 in fiscal year 22, an astounding 2,475% above 2021. I must applaud the Virgin Islands Port Authority on its work to nearly triple the amount of cruise passengers visiting the island of St. Croix. Seeing 2 cruise ships docked at Frederiksted Pier is no longer a rare sight. My office hosted 5 community business forums to prepare St. Croix businesses and the Frederiksted community for the return of cruise ships. I want to take this opportunity to thank my former Chief Legal Counsel, David Bourne, for his invaluable contributions to moving the economic development policy of the Virgin Islands forward over the last 4 years. Thank you, David. In St. Thomas, the cruise passengers continue to climb back to pre-COVID numbers. The West Indian Company Limited has recently refinanced its debt to place it in even more of a positive financial light and was further assisted by $2 million in funding that was invested by the local government. The dredging of the inner harbor in Charlotte Amalie is currently going through the Army Corps of Engineers permitting process. We have identified $17 million in local funds for this project after several attempts to get the U.S. Housing and Urban Development to fund this project. The project's successful completion will allow us to comfortably accommodate the largest cruise ships serving the Caribbean region. We continue to work with HUD to fund the other dredging projects in Gallows Bay and in Crown Bay, and we are confident that we will be successful. Early last year, Royal Caribbean committed to the redevelopment of Crown Bay and Frederiksted in a landmark deal negotiated by the Virgin Islands Port Authority. This public-private partnership will allow for the development of sub-base and the surrounding area, adding shops and restaurants and a new berth for St. Thomas. The development is anticipated to accommodate the thousands of new passengers we will see in both districts in the coming years. They have also committed to offering more excursions to St. John to complement the resumption of small cruise ships visiting the islands, which started again last year. Our hotel development is making steady progress towards returning to pre-hurricane room numbers. This year, we will witness the reopening of the former Marriott Frenchman's Reef and Morningstar Beach Resort. Work has actually begun repairing roofs at the Sugar Bay property in St. Thomas, and we expect to see the Island Beachcomber Hotel awarded to a successful bidder by the end of the second quarter. The proposed new 120-room hotel for the West Indian Company dock is moving along and should be in construction before the end of 2023. In St. Croix, we have completed the lease of Protestant Key, which will be the site of a new 120-room hotel in the center of Christiansted. The sale of King's Alley Hotel has allowed for the expansion of the King Christian Hotel and restaurant spaces, making a fine complement to the Christiansted Boardwalk. The completion of the bulkhead in Christiansted by the National Park Service and the development of Hospital Street by private developers are restoring the town's overall allure. It's not only hotels and cruise ships, though. I have to say that I am particularly proud of what we are doing to transform our tourism product. Just for one example, the new Vendors Plaza in downtown Charlotte Amalie is a welcome sight after enduring that previous eyesore for more than 20 years. This is complemented by brand new bathrooms and ATMs across the street. If that wasn't enough, we have finally attracted an investor with enough capital to demolish and reconstruct the old federal courthouse building that sits adjacent to the Vendors Plaza. Right up the street, renovations at the Grand Hotel are ongoing, and the office building on the corner of Educators Park is getting a complete remodel as well. Downtown development at its best. Earlier this year, President Biden signed into law the National Heritage Area Act, which finally designates the island of St. Croix as a national heritage area. This designation is the official recognition of the importance of St. Croix's natural, cultural, and historic resources to the nation. The designation opens a door for federal appropriations and technical assistance in developing St. Croix as a National Heritage Area. I congratulate the Honorable Stacey Plaskett for her diligence and persistence in getting this measure across the finish line in Washington. But I would be remiss if I did not also acknowledge the vision and foresight of former Congresswoman Dr. Donna Christian, who got the ball rolling more than 2 decades ago when she introduced legislation to fund the initial feasibility study. This new designation will assist greatly in the promotion of heritage tourism and the marketing of St. Croix as a truly unique destination. The recent establishment of the territorial park system, the first time, complements of the National Heritage Area designation. To complement the National Heritage Area designation, I would like to thank Senator Samuel Sammy Carrion for shepherding this historic legislation through the Senate process. This system now, for our own Virgin Islands Park system, will hold lands in perpetuity for Virgin Islanders and our guests to enjoy. We are working diligently to finalize this agreement that will preserve over 1,000 acres of historically significant maroon land up in the northwest part of St. Croix for the people of the Virgin Islands. This is only the first. We will be announcing several more land purchases and acquisitions to make sure that we have invested in our children's future and the land of the Virgin Islands. Now, although tourism will remain the mainstay of our economy for the foreseeable future, we must continuously seek to expand and diversify. I congratulate the members of the 34th Legislature for the passage of the adult use cannabis legislation. That action finally allows us to participate in what has been a growth industry throughout the country, no pun intended. We understand that the high risk, high reward nature of this business, and so we will be taking cautious and conservative approaches to building the regulatory system that will sustain the cannabis industry in the Virgin Islands. But the retailing of adult use cannabis will certainly bring revenues and opportunities to our shores. But my real objective has always been to participate in the macroeconomics of this industry. Unfortunately, one of the most crucial parts of my original submission to the Senate was not included in the final consensus legislation that made its way to my desk. That provision in the original bill, which allowed for research under the university, could prove to be the most significant single revenue source in Virgin Islands history. By creating research opportunities, we can patent and trademark cannabis discoveries that would be used worldwide. Residuals and dividends from these trademarks could be in the hundreds of millions and would be returned to the Virgin Islands at a tax discount for the general fund. We intend to resubmit the legislation to this body as we cannot afford to miss this very prosperous opportunity. The rebuilding of our infrastructure has been steady and consistent over the past years. Even during the COVID economic shutdowns, work on hurricane recovery and other capital projects continued. Now we are seeing the benefit of the effort. As a testament to this, the economic indicator that is most compelling is that a total of 2,375 construction permits were issued in fiscal year 22. The estimated construction value of those issued permits is a whopping $506 million. We cannot travel the road to prosperity if it remains unpaved. Road repairs and drainage and waterline construction have been a major focus of the Bryan Roach administration. Over the last 2 years alone, with the help of this body, we have invested over $40 million in local funds for road projects. Work on the final segments of the Melvin H. Evans Highway will be completed by this summer. The improvements at the Container Port intersection are well underway. This project completely rebuilds the connector road and redesigns that intersection to improve traffic flow by installing dedicated turn lanes. Several road projects on the west end of St. Croix will be commencing this year, including the federal routes through King, Queen, and Strand Streets in Frederiksted. The Mahogany Road, which has fallen into considerable disrepair, we will begin work on that road this year. Drainage and installation and road reconstruction are also scheduled to take place in Estate LaGrange. On St. Thomas, road repairs will be completed in estates Liliendal and Mariendal and Smith Bay. Repair projects begin soon on the First Avenue and for segments of the neighborhood roads in Estate Thomas. Road repairs on Water Island are also underway and will be completed within this calendar year. On St. John, repairs to damaged roads in Cruz Bay, Coral Bay, and Fish Bay will be completed later this year. Now, I could stand up here all night and name off road projects. And there will always be somebody who will say, my road didn't get paved though. See, we have done a considerable amount of resurfacing, but the real work of infrastructure as it pertains to roads is gonna take years. It's not simply like laying asphalt, but coordinating efforts to dig once and properly lay electrical, water, sewer, and telecommunication lines. It's a coordination of multiple funding sources and several agencies to ensure that the infrastructure beneath our roadways is designed properly. Then to further complicate the issue, the timing of funds that need to be coordinated amongst each agency with various sources of federal and local funding. It's a complete nightmare. The work that our local professionals do in the Department of Public Works, Water and Power Authority, Waste Management Authority, BI Next Generation Network, and Office of Disaster Recovery is nothing less than incredible. Thank you to you and your staff. The Department of Public Works is executing several major drainage improvement projects. They are currently soliciting design-build contracts for drainage repairs in Frederiksted, First Avenue, and downtown Charlotte Amalie. The Water and Power Authority continues to overhaul its water distribution system to improve water quality. It's currently wrapping up waterline replacement projects in Estate Clifton Hill. It will soon begin major waterline replacement projects in Estate Hannah's Rest and Campo Rico. On St. Thomas, the waterline along Veterans Drive is scheduled to be replaced in anticipation of Phase 2 of the Veterans Drive rehabilitation. WAPA will be extending service in the Nazareth area this year as well. And in water, there's over $40 million in water expansion, not water replacement, water expansion projects scheduled to take place. The Waste Management Authority is completing sewer line replacements on Brookman Road, Savannah, and Garden Street. Work is about to start on the replacement of sewer lines in downtown Christiansted. Over the next few years, as part of these infrastructure improvements, we will see the completion of over 200 capital projects just in infrastructure. Our airports, they're the gateways to our economy. The Port Authority is currently pursuing a public-private partnership to expand and modernize both airports. Partnering with a qualified airport operator will provide the capital investment to construct new jetways, improve the concession areas, and otherwise fast-track the development plans for these facilities. This is a perfect example of how we must approach major projects in this territory. Leveraging public money and public resources to attract private investment that improves our infrastructure is a win, 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 win all the time for everyone. A request for qualification has been issued and the Port Authority hopes to identify a development partner within 12 months. Within the next 4 years, we should see the complete modernization of our international airports, providing a better quality experience for our residents as well as our guests. I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, the recovery is alive and well, positively impacting the territory's economy, strengthening critical infrastructure. The territory now anticipates more than $12 billion in recovery funding. Seems like every time I come up here, go up $1 billion. And $7.4 billion of those funds have already been allocated for the recovery from Hurricanes Irma and Maria. And I always like to say when I come up here, allocated, not obligated. That's a whole other step in getting the money where it needs to be. The territory paid out over $460 million in recovery funding in 22 alone. In total, $5.9 billion has been obligated from various federal sources, and over $2.9 billion has been expended to date. We saw the completion of 34 recovery projects in 2022, including Vitima's tsunami warning system, the installation of brand new playground equipment at Head Start campuses territory-wise, and the restoration of recreational facilities at Fort Frederick Beach and Frederickstead. As projected, we are poised to see a crescendo of projects in construction this year. Those projects include the $160 million rebuild of the first new school in decades on St. Croix. This school is scheduled to break ground in February of this year. 8 days February, not next year February. We also have 3 more schools right now out for bid for repair and restructuring. Overall, in 2023, the Office of Disaster Recovery projects the completion of 44 projects and anticipates the start of over $930 million in recovery projects for this year alone. I think that all residents of this territory can agree, though, that the ongoing financial and operational woes at the Water and Power Authority are an impediment to any developmental progress we hope to make as a community. As I campaigned for re-election last year, I tried my best to avoid making any bold pronouncements to solve issues that were beyond my direct control. The one exception to that, though, was WAPA. I have committed to fixing the issues of WAPA within my second term. As you have come to learn, every time I come up here in January and I say something, people are skeptical, and in December it's done. So as you come to learn, I'm a man of my word, and we must create a symbiotic energy system that has multiple sources to the grid for our people. Now, I'm confident that setting this goal is going to happen because I know tremendous resources are being made available to help WAPA turn the corner in this problem. And this administration has the courage and the determination to see it through. For the first time in our history, we have the resources to make our energy affordable, reliable, and renewable. Solving the energy crisis in the Virgin Islands was never really feasible until now. WAPA has attracted the attention of everyone from my government house to President Biden's White House, and is steadily making progress on its transformational plan. The installation of 4 new generating units at the Randolph-Harley Power Plant in St. Thomas is ongoing and project that WAPA is extremely focused on in bringing it to completion. Because once operational, these units will immediately improve the efficiency and reliability of the St. Thomas Power Plant. And the resulting operational savings will translate into lower electric rates for everybody. WAPA is nearing the completion of its negotiation with a small provider to provide utility-scale solar power on the island of St. Croix. Now, although my statements regarding this matter was misquoted in the media and ultimately politicized, the fact is, WAPA took my directive to them seriously and have identified qualified firm that can deliver between 50 to 100% of St. Croix's power from solar for a fraction of the current cost. We We anticipate that the solar farms will be fully operational within 12 to 18 months of the execution of these power purchase agreements. Equally promising is the realization that we also have developers that have the capacity to develop similar projects in St. Thomas and St. John's district. These projects will go a far way in reducing the cost of electricity in the territory. However, all this potential progress is jeopardized by the ongoing dispute between WAPA and Vitol, the owner of and operator of WAPA's propane terminal. No one disputes that propane is less expensive than the diesel fuel that WAPA has solely been dependent on for power production. There is also very little dispute that the decision to proceed with the project made sense at the time under the circumstances. But unfortunately, WAPA and the Public Service Commissions never really came to an agreement with Vitol on the true cost of the project. And the project has essentially become an unfunded mandate of the utility. WAPA is currently in discussions with Vitol to resolve this matter amicably. And we are very optimistic that we will be able to announce a positive resolution in short order. We intend to settle this debt once and for all and place WAPA on firm financial footing. Needless to say, this energy piece is probably the most significant thing that will happen in Virgin Islands history for the next 20 years. And it's the only way that we can make sure that our next step will be an economic future that is full of promise. Now, been talking about economic growth, and economic growth is fantastic as it affords us the ability to assist our people in ways we could have only dreamed of in past years. 4 years ago, we promised we would take the fruits of this economic success and invest it in our people, creating a quality of life that is equal to that of our counterparts on the mainland. Now, let's get real. Creating a quality of life that is equal to the mainland is no easy feat. And it's an ever-moving target, but we remain undaunted in this quest. In this endeavor, the health of our residents is foremost. Thankfully, for the first time in 2 years, I can address this body absent our local state of emergency that was triggered by the COVID-19 global pandemic. Of course, it does not mean that the pandemic has ended. Unfortunately, Virgin Islanders continue to lose their lives to this deadly virus. But nationally, realize the declaration of emergency that was first declared by President Trump in March 2020 still remains in full effect. Most recently, the highly contagious XBB variant of the virus has been circulating rapidly. Present person can tell you. However, we are confident in our capacity to treat Virgin Islanders who become infected and to implement the measures to keep our community safe and from the worst impacts of the pandemic as we have done in the past. We understand that the pandemic has stressed our resources, particularly our human resources. That's why we have allotted $10 million to each hospital, Juan F. Louis and Royal Snyder, to support the recruitment and retention of nursing and allied health professionals. It is our hope that these financial incentives will assist us in maintaining critical healthcare capacity at our hospital. And if you don't think we're serious about our commitment to this, the nurses and allied health officials got 7,000 bonus last year. They're gonna get 7,000 bonus this year, and they're gonna get 7,000 bonus next year, and 7,000 bonus in the year after. That is a true commitment to bringing healthcare to these islands. The challenge, though, of opening the JFL North Modular Facility on St. Croix has been the most frustrating setback in our hurricane recovery efforts. The project has been plagued over the years by errors and omissions in funding, supply chain disruptions, contract disputes, COVID, and poor management of oversight, amongst other issues. The territorial hospital redevelopment team and the management of Juan F. Louis Hospital understand what is at stake and realize that further delays, frankly, just cannot be tolerated by the community. Senators, I know you've heard this before, and before again, but they have assured me, Mr. Coke and his team, that they will be with you and me, you and I, at the long-awaited ribbon cutting to open this facility this quarter. The redevelopment, though, of our other health facilities has not been nearly as problematic. The opening of JFL North will clear the way for the demolition of the existing hospital structure to commence later this year. The demolition of Charles Harwood Medical Complex is underway as we speak, with a contractor mobilizing this year as well. Likewise, the restoration of Charlotte Kimmelman Cancer Center has begun. The Department of Health is also making progress on a new office for women, infants, and children, or WIC, at the Nude Hansen Memorial Complex on St. Thomas, and also in the town of Frederickstead and St. Croix. But healthcare is not limited to physical health. We as a community cannot neglect those who suffer from mental health challenges as well. Providing adequate care for our neighbors with behavioral health issues is a hurdle we must overcome together. It's a hurdle that we will overcome together. I congratulate the Honorable Novell Francis Jr. and the other members of the 34th Legislature for passing the Behavioral Health Act. This comprehensive legislative measure, over 8 years in the making, addresses the interdepartmental coordination of agencies and organizations providing services to individuals who suffer from these challenges. The Act also establishes policies and procedures by which persons with behavioral issues or disorders may receive services. This is a critical contribution to the continuum of mental health care that will result in better outcomes for those of our people with these behavioral health issues. Now, we must continue to prioritize early and consistent treatment so Virgin Islanders with serious mental illnesses may manage their condition, overcome their challenges, and receive the support they need. It is one thing to provide these facilities and everything else for healthcare, but creating access for our community is just as important. More than 30%, conservatively, of Virgin Islanders do not have access to traditional health insurance. Our ability for low-income families to access Medicaid has been hindered historically by the requirement for matching funds imposed by the federal government. For over 2 decades, the Virgin Islands Federal Medicaid Assistance Percentage, or the FMAP, was 50%, and then it increased to 55% in 2010. This is the share, you see, of Medicaid funding that is provided by the federal government, which has long been lower for the territories than for the states. This means since then, the local government has been required to come up with 45 cents out of every dollar expended for Medicaid benefits in the territory. Over the years, the governor of the Virgin Islands, its lobbyists, and our congressional delegates have tirelessly advocated for an increase in the FMAP. Today, I am happy to announce that not only did we see a temporary increase in the FMAP to 89% from December 21 through March 23, but we have made history with the passing of the omnibus legislation that permanently increases the FMAP from 55 to 83% for Virgin Islands. After 20-something years, further adding to the historic significance of this landmark legislation, it was actually signed right here in the Virgin Islands while the president vacationed on the island of St. Croix. The benefits of the increase in our FMAP are far-reaching. We not only increased the number of persons we serve from 32 to 37,000, but we added additional services to include personal care attendance services for seniors, telehealth services for all Medicaid members, and implemented a Medicaid buy-in for Medicare recipients. We are now exploring expanding Medicaid to cover more of the uninsured population. This is a tremendous accomplishment. I would like to once again thank the Honorable Stacey Plaskett, her staff, and our Washington team for their incredible work. As we work to rebuild our health and hospital infrastructure and access, my administration has been focused on overall community wellness. We have launched the Our Best Life initiative to focus on improving the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of all Virgin Islanders. The initiative is a multi-agency collaboration with programs and activities for individuals of all ages and physical ability. Lest we forget, the true aim of having health initiatives is to actually keep people out of the hospital. And the only way we can do this is through changing our eating habits, our behavior around exercise, and being active in our lifestyle. As Virgin Islanders, we continue to adjust to the new normal of the post-pandemic world. We're increasingly finding ourselves meeting up in our favorite space, outside. During the election, I noticed our people and their craving and desire to do low-cost, fun family activities. The Department of Sports, Parks, and Recreation is making tremendous progress in restoring our parks and recreational areas for the public's enjoyment. FEMA-funded repairs are in progress at numerous recreational facilities throughout the territory, with most expected to be completed this year. On St. Thomas, repairs are being made to Emil Griffith, Alvin McBean, and Joseph Albane parks. St. Croix, repairs are being made to Pedro Cruz Ballpark, the Rudy Krieger Complex, and the Party Pavilion at Kramer's Parks are all being restored. Additionally, repairs will begin this year on Ezra Fredericks, Lionel Smut Ridges, Michael J. Kerwin Terrace, Oppenheimer Beach, Winston Wells, and Reynold Jackson Complex Ballpark. The Polly Joseph Stadium in Frederickstead. The Polly Joseph Stadium in Frederickstead. Is also nearing completion. As the dirt and debris are cleared from the front of this monolith, we could finally see the promise of a Polly Joseph Stadium we have been hearing about for 12 years now. We will soon be submitting a final appropriation request to this body to upgrade several items in the project from the current base bid. After the many years spent in the effort to complete this renovation of this facility, I think we all would like to see a stadium we can be proud of. On the other side of town, the restoration of the Vincent Mason Pool has unfortunately encountered a significant challenge. The original scope of work did not anticipate the need to replace the pilings and the pile foundation that holds the pool up. This change has doubled the cost of the project. It's become a $5 million pool. And it requires some additional funding. But we are working to execute an amendment to the contract and restart that project this quarter. Drag racing has returned to St. Croix. We congratulate the Caribbean Drag Racing Association and its president, Arthur Hector, for getting racing back on track. Our attention is now focused on horse racing tracks. Both tracks are in the Coastal Zone Management permitting processing. Southland Gaming has submitted its permitting package on behalf of Clinton Phipps Racetrack, and VIGL's contractor has recently mobilized to begin the site work at the Randall Doc James Racetrack in St. Croix. And yes, cricket, lovely cricket. The lease has finally been finalized on the plot for the development of a pitch on St. Croix, and $2 million has been allotted for the development of that site. On St. Thomas, we have allocated startup monies to begin the work in Nazareth for the pitch and the stadium, which will follow. We are in the design phase for a complete sports park adjacent to the Ivana Eudora Kent High School, which will boast fields for cricket and soccer, a gymnasium, which will double as a storm shelter. Virgin Islanders, we are going to be spending a lot of healthy time outside. As I always say, luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. With the sweet promise of prosperity on the horizon, there is nothing more crucial to our individual success than education. The Virgin Islands can boast that it has a complete educational pipeline. Not only is the pipeline accessible, but it is also free. Free Head Start, free public pre-kindergarten, free K through 12, free college tuition, and free vocational training and apprenticeship programs. No other state can say this. But the constant fixation we have had with building maintenance masks the true mission of our education in the Virgin Islands. See, education is about graduating students that are competent and capable. We must not lose sight of that mission. This past year, we implemented several interventions to assist our students in getting up to standard. However, to be truly successful, we must make a community-wide commitment to promoting academic achievement from cradle to the career. We must commit to encouraging literacy and numeracy at every opportunity. See, we have many competent and well-trained teachers to lead us on this mission. Teachers who demonstrate the required commitment to the academic success of our student. In fact, we have two perfect examples with us this evening. District Teacher of the Year for the St. Thomas St. John District, Mr. Melvin Ledesma, a math teacher at Bertha C. Bushelty Middle School. And from the island of St. Croix, the District of St. Croix, Teacher of the Year for St. Croix District, Ms. Astral Baptiste, a kindergarten teacher at the Pearl B. Larson Pre-K-8. If you happen to be in St. Croix, if you don't do anything else, you gotta go see Ms. Baptiste's classroom. Every single year is just phenomenal. Thank you, and thank all the teachers that contribute to our children's education. In our further commitment to our teachers, I keep ad-libbing out of my speech. I know my staff is like, what is he gonna say now? We have committed to bringing teachers' starting salaries over the last 3 years to $48,000. And I am not going to stop until it's over $50,000 because attracting and retaining our teachers has to be one of our main emphasis right here in the Virgin Islands. Our administration has placed emphasis on early childhood education from the beginning. We have established public pre-kindergarten programs for 5-year-olds in all but one of our public elementary schools. This year, we will begin construction, restoration, and repair projects on 8 Head Start centers. These projects represent an expenditure of over $42 million. This is extra money now. We haven't even been in recovery anymore. Much like free college tuition, these are long-term investments whose impacts you may not be seeing immediately, but it'll undoubtedly pay dividends for our community in the long runs. The Virgin Islands Department of Education, or VIDE, is at an unprecedented time where federal funds are available to execute much-needed improvements in public education territory-wide. The department will utilize $138 million in American Rescue Plan allotments to reform, rebuild, and rebrand public education. The VIDE is committed to transforming today's learners into tomorrow's leaders. Reforming efforts include, and I think this is so huge, site-based management, which will give each principal $250,000 each to develop plans that meet the needs of the students, the faculty, and the staff. This will allow for flexibility in developing programs designed to support student achievement gaps because they differ from school to school with a different economic background and makeup of the neighborhoods. They will be able to implement accelerated programs that enhance their student experiences and professional development for their teachers and monitors, to name a few. The VID is focused on improved student outcomes, hence the alignment of practices with the state, the district, and the schools. This strategic planning allows synergy in practices and the maximization of our federal funds. Among the priorities in these plans is the need for behavioral support services, tutorial services, after-school activities, and extended days, as well as summer teaching to decrease this learning loss we're experiencing. It is downright ridiculous that our teachers are working second jobs to meet their needs instead of earning that same money to enrich our children. We have the money. We are going to pay those teachers to stay in the classrooms. The transition back to in-person learning versus virtual has posed its own challenges. Last year, we saw school violence escalate as students transitioned back into the classrooms. We recognize that we need to protect the safety of the students, teachers, the monitors, as well as the administrative staff. We have supported student-led efforts to encourage healthy conflict resolution and positive behaviors. Administrators are revamping how disciplinary actions are implemented by including wraparound service, behavioral services to address the underlying challenges these students are experiencing. We have identified ARPA funding to assess sites for safety and security concerns. So whether it's electrical upgrades, security cameras, intercom systems, egress and ingress areas, emergency lighting, and a lot of training, we have to invest in it to address this issue. The scopes of work for these things are in preparation and will be ongoing starting this summer. Service contracts are being implemented to allow our maintenance workers to finally have access to be able to retrieve supplies so that their daily work is not delayed. Work order systems will be allowed for better management of human capital and resources. In addition to rebranding, efforts include launching a new website for the IDA, mobile applications. Yeah, we're gonna have an app too. An alert system to keep our stakeholders engaged and informed about the many initiatives and activities at our schools. Programs geared toward parental involvement are also being revived using this funding. Now, more than ever, we need to develop a generation of Virgin Islanders that are prepared for the competitive world we live in. We continue to establish and enrich the workforce development pipeline as we need 5,000 new workers to complete this recovery. Not 5,000 people more who are in the system, 5,000 new people who don't exist right now in the Virgin Islands to come to our system. We will bring the resources to our people. We've done it, but it's up to us individually to develop ourselves and take advantage of the opportunities, free opportunities. Having a safe, secure place to call home is vital to our peace of mind. So whether you are a first-time homeowner, a senior in your twilight years, or a person experiencing homelessness, affordable housing is a basic necessity. In the past 4 years, we have been on a mission to address our territory's housing crisis from a variety of angles. We are creating access to new housing across every income level. In a cooperative effort with the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority and our local banks, we have established the VI Slice Moderate Income Home Ownership Program, designed to help fulfill a wide range of goals, including homes purchased for rehabilitation, new home construction, down payment and closing cost assistance, and secondary gap financing assistance. This makes $250,000 per person available on a grant never, ever before even dreamed of, much less implemented in the Virgin Islands. In support of lowering home insurance, my recently passed legislation will allow VI domestic insurers to become members of the Federal Home Loan Bank of New York and help provide support to local banks, credit unions, and other financial institutions in support of this VI Slice program. Get you a slice, eh? Our federal partners at HUD have signaled bold steps to improve the quality of our existing housing and produce abundant housing through increased support to our VI Housing Authority. Last year, HUD provided $46.2 million to help over 2,000 families living in public housing and 2,000 living in moderate income families utilizing housing choice vouchers. Additionally, V has been allotted $15 million in housing assistance payments for upwards of 800 landlords this year. The Housing Authority continues the implementation of a $1 billion redevelopment plan, which will see the replacement of the entire 3,000 units of public housing, with half being new construction and half of the units to be comprehensively modernized over the 5 years. Priority housing projects include 250 units at Walter I. M. Hodge Pavilion, where groundbreaking was held in June 22 and completion is anticipated in December 24. 84 state-of-the-art units in Dunu, which is 39% complete now. 98 units of senior housing at Stony Ground, and 70 new units at Ludwig Harrigan, where demolition has been completed on the old units. VA is leveraging its federal funding to improve all our housing communities. As we work to address the housing crisis that has been building in the Virgin Islands for the last decade, we must act quickly and thoughtfully. We will do this by creating new, high-quality housing units and helping revitalize neighborhoods where we build them, ensuring everyone in our community will rise together. But as we seek to identify additional housing and improve the general curb appeal of our community, it is impossible to continue ignoring the tremendous number of abandoned and derelict structures in our neighborhoods and towns. Buildings damaged by Hurricanes Hugo and Marilyn have encumbered additional damages in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma and Maria. We have tried to incentivize property owners by dangling the proverbial carrot with tax incentives and whatnot, but we have simply not made enough progress with the current approach. The time has come for us to be more aggressive in restoring the previous beauty of our towns and neighborhoods. In the next few months, I will be sending legislation to the Senate that unifies and modernizes our historic preservation laws, as well as addresses abandoned and derelict properties. We haven't made it yet. We're going to get with the community, so we have your input when we do this. But we will be seeking to, and our aim is to put in place a process for properties to be placed into conservatorship by order of the court. These court-ordered conservatorships would temporarily transfer control of the property to a public or nonprofit entity for the purpose of restoring the property to functional viability. Emphasis on temporary, because we want our families to maintain these properties, but they simply don't have the resources or the will to do it. I look forward to your collaboration and cooperation on this historic effort in getting our towns back to where they need to be. Another important mission of this administration is restoring the safety, peace, and tranquility that our islands have traditionally enjoyed. In my past addresses, I have called our community to action. If you see something, you answered. And the Virgin Islands Police Department has demonstrated on several occasions that this partnership yields and will continue to yield tangible results. Our officers are capable and hardworking. They did the police work and removed criminals from our community with your help. Over the last 4 years, we have put in place a comprehensive effort to address crime and violence in our territory. We have invested significantly in public safety. VIPD has been unable to recruit and retain ideal manpower. We've been hearing this for 20 years. So we invested in technology to expand our capabilities. Cameras, drones, shot spotter system, and marine vessel. This past year, the Virgin Islands saw a lower rate of gun violence and a higher rate of arrests. All categories of serious crimes declined versus the prior year, and the territory recorded the lowest number of homicides in a decade and the second lowest in 2 decades. I would like to thank I would seriously and earnestly like the community to thank to Commissioner Ray Martinez and especially our men and women in blue who have served and protected the citizens of this territory. In the weeks to come, VIPD will launch a police recruitment program. We're not giving up on manpower yet. We're offering a $10,000 sign-on bonus to become a police officer. Not a marshal, not a corrections officer, not a VI port officer, but a VIPD officer. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have ever considered a career in law enforcement, I would say the time is now. Sign up, go through the academy, and serve your community. The position is noble and extremely rewarding. Just ask one of the many senators we have here who have served us in law enforcement. But removing criminals from the street is not a long-term solution. We must be equally committed to their rehabilitation. The Bureau of Correction has launched its long-awaited offender reentry program. 90% of imprisoned individuals will return to our community at some point. Going forward, this administration will emphasize reentry. We have identified federal funding to pursue transitional housing with the understanding that the transition from incarceration to reentry into our community can be mentally and emotionally challenging. The goal is to execute a model that will include shelter, structure, and resources to facilitate a more successful transition. You see, we all benefit from formerly incarcerated individuals transitioning to becoming productive and successful members of the community. After all, they are fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, and most especially neighbors. We do not want our people in and out of the prison system. This administration will continue to make investments to support and provide opportunities to reintegrate this population and discourage recidivism. We have established an entity to coordinate violent crime efforts through our Office of Gun Violence Prevention. We have increased the capacity of the Virgin Islands Police Department to identify and apprehend criminals. We have put in place programs to rehabilitate prisoners and give them a chance of success as they re-enter society. But there is still so much work to do. We plan to approach this body to modify peace officer status so we can get more help from our federal law enforcement officers. We also plan to approach this body to adopt a requirement for individuals to declare within 24 hours their intent to import firearms into the territory. That's before they get on the plane. We believe that this is a better way to distinguish legitimate firearm owners from those smuggling weapons for nefarious purposes. We also want to take a closer examination of our Youth Rehabilitation Center. This is currently operated by the Department of Human Services. This institution is no longer effective in its conduct of its mandate. Children remanded to YRC typically are not detained there long enough to avail themselves of meaningful rehabilitation services. It has really just become an expensive babysitting service for troubled youth. As my administration enters its second term, we will be exploring alternative approaches to addressing juvenile delinquency. We want peace in our communities. We want to enjoy our paradise and to invite guests to do the same, particularly after years of COVID restrictions. Our culture also demands that we come together and do so often. We want our carnivals and parades and our concerts violence-free. I'm aware that we will only achieve this mission through prevention and engaging those most at risk in our community. The Workforce Development Board, in partnership with the executive branch agencies and Aligned VI, is executing the Dannon Project model in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The model focuses on training and employment opportunities for at-risk young adults. Providing training and employment can positively change the course of someone's life forever. We are seeking partnerships from the private sector to support this program. We invite our local businesses to help change lives by partnering with us. The judiciary in the Virgin Islands remains the anchor of the criminal justice system. I thank the honorable judges for their work on behalf of the people of this territory. While we recognize that the delays that the pandemic forced on our courts, we are cognizant of the constitutional right to a speedy trial. As the great orator Martin Luther King Jr. stated, "Justice too long delayed is justice denied." This extends to our citizens who have cases languishing in courts, whether criminal or civil. It is important that these cases move forward so that our people can have their matters heard and resolved in a timely fashion. We are pledging our cooperation and our full support to the judiciary in this effort. Finally this evening, I like finally, huh? Finally this evening, I must warn of some newly emerging challenges on the horizon. The economy continues to improve as we navigate out of the pandemic. However, the territory is sailing into some very, very strong headwinds. The economists at the World Bank are warning that global growth has slowed to the extent that the global economy is perilously close to falling into a recession. Most regions are seeing inflation rise higher than it has in several decades, triggering a cost of living crisis. Financial conditions are tightening across the globe, and there's widespread shortage of skilled workers, thereby creating issues for a variety of industries relying on those workers. Nationally, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is predicting at least a mild recession to affect the country sometime later this year, caused by falling consumer and business spending and rising interest rates. But we don't need economists to tell us that, right? We feel it every day at the gas pump and certainly in the grocery store. Since the beginning of 2020, inflation has increased markedly in the territory, increasing 7.1% in 2020, 5.7% in 21, and another 7% in 22. There is, however, some reason for optimism, as the monetary policy of the Federal Reserve is having the intended effect of slowing the growth of inflation nationally. And hopefully we will soon see some of that benefit locally. We cannot predict with certainty what 2023 holds for the global economy. So we must continue to build our economic resilience for what is to come. So while we count our blessing, we must remain ever vigilant that hard times are inevitable and we must be prepared. Locally, our government has implemented our own policy of fiscal stimulus to increase spending power of Virgin Islanders, particularly those with fixed incomes, and help them keep pace with this massive inflation. Last year, with the help of our friends in the legislature, we provided $40 million in direct stimulus in the form of outstanding retroactive wages owed to the employees and retirees of the government of the Virgin Islands. The government's current obligation for repayment of those retroactive wages, which go back 40 years, is still $135 million. Now, I made a promise last year that this administration will pay at least $25 million every year and we have budgeted another $25 million for this year to be paid out before October 1st. I know some people thought it was an election ploy, but we're serious about our people. We were also able to distribute the statutorily mandated bonuses for public sector retirees 60 and older for fiscal years 2018 through 2022 before the end of last year. In all, over 7,500 retirees benefited from the distribution. I want to congratulate the Honorable Donna Fred Gregory for successfully championing this cause and getting us fully caught up. And I want people to recognize that these are not easy things to do. I mean, we took this money out of general fund, and the Senate President, let's say, took me to task to make sure we get it done. Because we recognize the tremendous hardship that the current inflation has put on everyone, but especially our seniors and our people with disabilities who are mostly on fixed incomes. I mean, we were able to provide, thank God, we have the money. We were able to provide direct financial aid in the form of a $500 cash stipend to 19,269 Social Security beneficiaries. We still got another 1,700 checks. I guess people don't need the money. Now, I know the rollout of this program proved extremely challenging, but the public interest and response demonstrated that it was severely needed. When you're seeing our seniors, 70, 80 years old, willing to go out and stand in line in the hot sun, you know they need this money. And they not only needed it, but they didn't take this check and put it in the savings. They needed it for basic everyday needs. All that money came right back into the economy. It was a timely distribution as we entered the holiday season so that those who received them could at least provide something for them and a little bit for their family. We didn't stop there. We paid out $23.5 million in premium pay to private sector and public sector employees that kept our economy moving during the pandemic. This local stimulus was supplemented by almost another $35 million in federal funding disbursed through the Federal Pandemic Emergency Assistance Fund, Pandemic Electronic Benefits Transfer, and a SNAP emergency allotments. Armed with this influx of cash that continues to be distributed to the people and bolstered by the numerous programs and projects this administration has championed, I am confident that the territory is prepared for whatever economic challenges that lie ahead. So, how can I say we are full of promise? How can I make such a bold pronouncement? Well, there are help wanted signs everywhere, and jobs for every qualified Virgin Islander who really wants one. We are offering free college education and free job training in every area you can think of. We have strong economic development planning in place. We are receiving regional and national recognition for our post-COVID economy. Billions of dollars are pouring into and invested in our infrastructure. Yes, there remains much work to be done. But we can get it done if we do it together. I stand here willing, ready, and able to put in the work, but I need your help. So friends and colleagues and Virgin Islanders, tonight I ask, will you join me in moving more people out of poverty? Will you join me in championing a healthier community? Will you join me in pursuing a safe and secure community where young men and women live as neighbors and not as enemies? Will you join me in building a community that truly values education, Will you join me in helping our young people achieve their dreams of home ownership? Will you join me in the pursuit of a Virgin Islands that we can all be proud of? I ask these questions because I know that if we are unified in our approach to confronting problems and implementing solutions, we will achieve lasting success in service to our people and realize the full promise of these islands we call home. In the words of the late Governor Alexander Farrelly, we owe it to ourselves to capture and preserve for posterity those things which are the essence of what we are and who we hope to be. Virgin Islanders, join me as we embark on this journey. God bless you. God bless the Virgin Islands. Love you.
As well as the Lieutenant Governor departs the chamber. Thank you very much, Governor. A round of applause again for the Governor. Delegate.